Welcome everyone to the first podcast where we talk about all things business, metaverse, marketing, AI, all the new interesting technologies. Okay, this opening is a bit cringe, but this is our first time, so forgive us. My name is Ivan. Here with me today is Alex, and Alex, I'll let you introduce yourself. So.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Alexander, as Ivan mentioned, and I'm founder and director of a software development company out of the UK called iCard Technologies, and we specialize in the prime areas of software development in the mobile application development, web development, and a bit of computer vision and backend data development.
So, um, well, recently, Alex and we have hosted and done the event which we called the Metaverse Conference. We brought a lot of speakers together to talk about Metaverse, AI, augmented reality, virtual reality as well. And it got us thinking more about it. And part of what we're doing right now is to keep the conversation going, because the most successful part of the event was actually getting the conversations started. And before this podcast, we were thinking, what should we talk about for the first time? Should we introduce ourselves? Should we talk about what we do? And ultimately, I decided that the last week was full of artificial intelligence news. I had a lot of thoughts about it myself, about what was going on, and I'm still haven't fully decided what I think about what was going on. And I thought that would be actually a nice conversation, which especially with Elon Musk and a few other people like signing a petition to stop the development of Chat GPT. I don't know if you heard about it. And like,
Mhm.
what is your stance on artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so it's definitely gaining some ground over the last few weeks and last few months. And yes, well, wouldn't paraphrase all the news articles that have come out recently saying that, there's privacy concerns with ChatGPT and other highly technological advances in the artificial intelligence sector. But the stance is generally being from a technology background and constantly trying to evolve new technologies and to see what's possible using technologies. I'm in favor of developing new AI, new capabilities of what machines can do. And it really depends on what your motives are to use this type of technology, because as with any technology, even when the internet first came out, you could use it in a destructive manner, or you can use it in a constructive manner, like many of the businesses and the communications that we have today will include in video meetings like this. This is using technology in a constructive manner. And similar with AI technology now, people are just getting familiar with it, most of all, and still, you're getting maybe hundreds of millions of users around the world for this type of technology. Maybe, well, less than, just approximate figures, less than 300 million still were to try this type of technology or to use it on a regular basis. So it's still a very, very small part of the world. You're looking at less than 5% of the world population who would use it. And for it to be becoming a massive concern, I don't think it's such an issue. But I think the main point we should focus on is how do people use this type of technology and with what motive. So what are they trying to do with it? How do they try to make it replace something, or do they use it as an add-on for something else? Right, and even you yourself, you're from the marketing sector, and that's a lot of AI's technology. There's multiple sites that will create content for you. You know, text to speech, text to video, text to audio, whatever, and they do it very, very quickly. So you just input some material, they create it for you. Some of them will edit for you. or you can, go into and say you want a video about even about AI, and an AI generator will create a full video for you with editing and whatnot. So it will greatly save time if that were the case. And if you use an AI just to make a mundane manual task quicker, more effective, then isn't that a positive of the technology?
Well, yeah, you mentioned like that I like do marketing, and a lot of people like start to implementing like AI in your workflows and like create content creation mostly. That's what AI is good for when doing marketing. And everybody is saying that, oh, there won't be any designers in the future. Nobody will be writing any copyrighted content. And I kind of agree with it that like right now you can replace entire marketing departments uh, with very few people. Uh, you really need like a few operators or a few people who actually supervise the content created to make sure there aren't any mistakes. Or like, as we've spoken off the record, you need people who know what to prompt and how to prompt the AI. But like, I just keep thinking about it, and it's like, it just seems so boring to me. Like, I think that's my biggest problem with it, because it's like, I, well, first of all, like, one thing I thought about was, as a small marketing agency owner slash solopreneur, because like sometimes I have more people, sometimes less working with me. And I thought, oh, like I can take in more clients now. But I can't really do that without expanding the team anyway, because how much actual mental bandwidth do I have? How many clients can I keep on track at the same time? And I can't really do much more than I have at the moment, or like much more than my maximum. I still won't be able to do it. So it's not like I'm going to create that much more work output, I don't think. And like, I'm not sure anybody can without like proper expansion, right? And like some people say like, oh, you can create like one startup per month now using AI, or at least like one MVP per month. Well, how many actually startups can you create per month and keep them all like working together? Like how much actually, not even time, but mental strength do you have to keep track of all the different like startups and different projects you can actually take on? So at some point you will need to grow your team and delegate in one way or another. Um, and then it's also like the content is boring. Like that's like if you look at the stable diffusion pictures, they're kind of all the same. Like they're same style, same concept applied to them. Like a lot of time lapses where they change throughout like time. So I'm not convinced that like it's that much of a change. Which is, I'm not sure if it's like a good change, to be honest, because like from less business point of view, I'm like, well, what will we become when everything we do is just AI generated?
Absolutely, but uh, coming back, well, for example, if you think of some of the tools which may be useful, there was a manual saw to cut down trees, right, to get wood. But then when you get the chainsaw, this is automated function. You'll see, okay, I can, cut down many pieces of get more wood. You can, cut more trees. But there's going to be still other limiting factors, that's gonna inhibit your overall expansion and your growth. And in some way, you can think of it that this is the same, because to create some pieces of content with some ideas that you've already pre-generated yourself, which you used to do before, you pre-generate, you make a content plan, you know exactly, you tailor you by your knowledge and skill sets a certain content promotion plan for a client. and you would know, you want to create videos based on this. To do the fine creation of it, maybe you can use some of the tools just to, make it quicker or to have it in a similar format. But to because some things that are more advanced, they do really save you time, even like removing background pictures. You just paste it, you get background removal, you take it out. Things
But
like that really help, right? You don't want to manually sit there going around the picture, right? That's
no, sure you don't. But like the problem is people will ruin everything.
yes.
Like even if you think about it, okay, you can create more content. Okay, sure, you can create more content, but then everybody will be able to create more content, and then more content need to be published on social media or like wherever. Doesn't really matter, and you'll just be overwhelmed by this content. That the cost of the content itself will go increasingly down, and the cost of content creation, yes, okay, that's good, but the value of this content created and the money which this content can generate will become increasingly cheaper the more it is, when you have thousands of arguably similar works. Because that's what's going to happen. Because, like, sure, uh, some people can use it as like a Canva to create more. So you create like a bit, like to inspire you, and then you do more. But this is going to take time. But the vast majority will create maybe 80% in AI and like finishing touches, like manually. Uh, and then just gonna become all the same, and it's all gonna become homogeneous, and more and more people are gonna use it the better the AIs become, just because
Uh, yes.
like yeah.
However, you mentioned this definitely will decrease the marginal value of each piece of content if the quality goes down. So still, the more quality content, there's going to be a massive disparity between the very popular content that people will share, like, and react with, and some of it may be AI generated, some of it won't be. But then there's, a massive amount of content which is, not going to be shared at all, or will be seldom viewed. And but the thing is interesting on this point is as marketers, as all the attention economy goes, there is a finite amount of attention that people have. However, if they spend, they have the jobs, the specialisms that they adhere to for 8 hours a day, they need to make some amount of output. And if they are able to use AI to, decrease that time to maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, that gives them an extra, 4 to 5 hours of extra attention that, as marketers and anyone could potentially monetize, because that gives them an extra time and an extra viewing audience. So maybe it wouldn't be as someone saving twice the amount of time, and then the amount of content goes up by 80%, or even more.
Have you watched Ready Player One?
I haven't.
Well, granted that we're speaking a lot about the metaverse lately, it's actually can be educational, I guess, to watch it. Not educational, but like it has a lot of the things which we've been talking about on the conference and like lately. So it's basically about a VR game, so I suggest it for educational purposes. But they have a scene in the movie where the company who creates the game decides how many ads they can actually put onto the screen, onto the VR goggle.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 80% of the screen is taken with advertisements, just because of the amount of this content. And uh, why is this happening? Is because like our attention span is going down as a society, and we're becoming desensitivized.
Disincentivizing.
Yeah, we become that word to the content actually.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't matter like the more quality, the more quantity of the content there is, then the quality starts to matter less and less, just because it becomes all the same. Like I see it now because I'm like very critical of marketing. Like I hate what most people do in marketing at the moment. Because if you go onto Instagram, or like not even if you go to Instagram, but if you go to Facebook ad library, where
Mhm.
you see all the advertisements which are online, which are right now running, and you type some popular topic, they're all the same. They don't invoke anything. They can as well be generated by AI already. Chances are they have been generated by one AI or another for the last 2 years. Because like ChatGPT 3 changed the game when it came out. It made more people aware of the AI. But we had like AIs like Copy AI and Jasper and like many others which do the same thing for a while now. Well, like about a year or so. So, well, more than a year. Uh, so it's like becoming harder and harder to sell because people just don't care about ads anymore. Like they all become the same. You don't remember what you're seeing. Like, the different, like if you go to like television advertisement,
Mhm.
you remember brands, which is, you may not remember the exact advertisement, but there was a certain creativity to them, which made you actually remember what you see in those ad spots, which you get. Right now, there's just so much product on the marketplace. And in social media, especially, I think there's so much unwanted uh, product as well for you because you see a lot of stuff which you marginally are the target audience for, but to be honest, it's not something you need. And there's no limit to the amount of ad spots on the social media. So with like TV advertisement, you have well, like you have 24 hours minus the time the programs actually run. So like I'm not sure how much it is actually, but let's say there are like 2 hours of non-stop advertising if
Mhm.
you think about it. And that's all the time you have, right? With social media, there is no limit. The limit is like how much time can you actually spend on the platform. Or if you're like playing games, like I was playing this game lately on iPhone, and I wanted more crystals, whatever, right? Uh, and so I watched those advertisements, but I didn't download any of the games which were on there. I just like watched it because I just wanted more crystals. But like, and I could have done this for any amount of time I wanted to, and they all were interchangeable, similar, boring. And that's why I'm like saying, like, the more advertisement there is, it doesn't mean it's going to become better for people to sell or not to sell. Like, also like we see it happening with everything in technology, like the videos, right? Everybody knows that like our attention span, which is I think bad for video podcast, which we're trying to do, but the
Mhm.
attention span is like 3 minutes max, maybe like even like 15 to 30 seconds at the moment, right? And every 30 seconds ideally in the video, something should change to keep your attention on the product, right? And that's kind of why the question is like, so what's going to happen in the future? I literally think AI will break our society. I think 10 years we will break our society, our business, will break everything with just AI running rampant.
Uh, Let me try and take a slightly different stance on that. Not that it will take over or any decline that we see in our society. It must be on the people side. Um, I think that people can use the AI in a maybe wrongful kind of way to then cause a decline in our advancement in society where we've got to so far. But on the advertising points, you see before, for example, like TV advertising, they were more popular, get more expensive, and this was the place to be. Plus, if your TV advertising costs you, sometimes many million, sometimes a few thousand, depends on what time of day, which channel, etc. But this is rising cost. I think on the Super Bowl was 30 seconds was about $7 million to air. And if you're spending that much on advertisements, are you going to rely on an AI just to do it for you? And it's likely you wouldn't, because you want to invest time, considerable time, if you're going to spend a lot per second of advertising. And but social media, what's the cost per meal? You're saying every 1,000 you're paying maybe $2 to $6, and that's so each view that you're watching for that game that you want to get crystals for, that's not expensive. That's very, very cheap advertising. And when it's cheap, you're not really, quality may become secondary. You want to play the numbers game and say, okay, if I send it to 1 million people, you're going to get a small percentage that's going to come back. Are you bothered so much about quality? And yes, it does make advertising or ads worse in quality, but it's what happened with TV maybe some years ago, and it's going to have to change. So when the dot-com bubble came, when companies were just spending very, very large amounts of their budget just to be on TV, and then most of them were broke after that, so they went out of business. For social media, when AI comes in to generate, it's going to bring conversions rate down, possibly, if everything's going to be the same. If there's too much content, there's just going to be competing for content. But then again, them companies were brought down because their marketing didn't work. So if people use AI to generate their content for them, and at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, they're going to run out of resources to maintain, and they're going to go out of business, or they're not going to spend on social media marketing if it's not going to generate it's not going to yield anything. That's the essence of marketing. You want to get something back. People don't just do it for the sake of getting views. You want something back. You want either someone to buy your product, to know you, or whatever your goal is. So at the end of the day, I think it will still, yes, there will be a lot of content which could be regarded as spam, and there is today, but the natural tendency would still make it so that the things that don't work get put out of business, and they will essentially join the 80-90% of content that doesn't really get seen and that does not shoot up and become popular. And we did mention as well that you can create an AI in 1 month. In a startup using AI in 1 month, which is an interesting thing. Or actually, can you? And think, so what is the hardest or longest part of the startup? If is it to generate all these things on the manual work, or is it something else, and is it something that AI can't do? Because if an AI can make a startup in 1 month, then what is the use of founders and people? So you may as well if you're trying to use AI, it is the motive of people. If you're trying to use AI to replace you, then there is little point of then debating, will AI replace jobs or will it replace people? We're not needed anymore. But if you're trying to make AI replace you, then surely you'd want there to be no jobs. Surely you want to be unemployed after that, or be struggling because if you're working to, like, if you want some you're trying to cheat using AI, which is very, very popular recently. Why I think ChatGPT is getting some extra attention from lawmakers and regulators, because they're trying to go around some things and try to shortcuts and to avoid actually doing the required work or adhere to the required standards. Then your incentive is already to replace yourself. You're replacing yourself by your actions, by trying to rely on something, by letting the AI take your job. So it really is how you decide to use it. That is the key, I think. So can you create a starter? Maybe you can. Maybe you can get something out there where you can create an e-commerce store, maybe and set it up in 24 hours. You can have some supplies, you can have some designs, you can have some fulfillment centers and get a site up there, run some advertising. You maybe won't get results in 24 hours, but you can set it up basically everything in a day. That's essentially a business. But if everybody did that, then,
Well,
what good would it do?
so like I personally am like I have two thoughts about this. Like in one way, I'm all for change, and I'm all like even like I just want to use the example of like info business and like courses and people
Hmm.
going to trainings. Like I think most of it is very scammy, but I think the best part of it, and again, there's like light centers and business something business models in Russia, and the best part of it is that actually it creates an incentive and necessary push for more people to go into entrepreneurship and business creation. So like even though like a lot of like the business practices of like those type of companies are kind of shady and in many ways predatory, like this is also something I'd like to talk about sometime. Is actually like take maybe one of those courses and just break down like where and where it just like lies to the audience at every step of the way. Um, but it makes more people actually go out and do things and try doing those things. And like if AI can make the process of working better and trying new things, that is good. But on the other way, like with the info courses, it makes people want to go and try doing weird things and scammy things, like by just creating more info courses. And like how many thoughts I had like about like the sinkhole of how like all the info courses are basically one huge pyramid.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the same as like with AI, I'm like not that it's gonna create like some sort of pyramid or anything, but in the sense that I feel it's gonna get misused. I feel it's
Oh,
gonna get
definitely. Hmm.
used more than it will get used properly. I think the governments will be too slow to adapt to it. I think certain governments and certain companies will be faster to adapting to it than others. I think the divide will become way too apparent, way too fast. So, for example, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe correct me in the comments if you're listening to this. Um, the third world countries will get left behind because they simply don't have the capacity to adapt to mass use of the AI, while developed countries will get adapted to it really well and move even further, creating more of a social divide as well there in the capabilities of people. Um, and the AI, if left unchecked, will I think it will replace like a lot of our brain power. It will become lazier. Like you say, like it frees up time, but like to do more work. But I think what it will ultimately do, it will create more free time for people to slack off and not do anything.
That is a good point. And but then again, can you blame the couch for you constantly spending or sitting down and lying down on it? It's not a problem with the couch
No, no, no,
that you
obviously,
have.
no, obviously.
Exactly, but so you can't really blame a tool for you misusing it, or there's like a saw, there's a chainsaw coming out, you cut your finger off with it, but it's essentially it's your fault, not because the chainsaw is bad, but not because it's not helpful in the industry. And same with this. It's a tool. You can't blame a tool for the lack of your own productivity, for the lack of yourself to actually, get up and do something. And how you spend the time that it frees up is again completely up to you.
How
Because
about,
if all you want to do is spend doing nothing,
oh yeah, okay, but how about guns? Guns are heavily regulated.
yeah,
Border,
well, somewhere, yes.
yeah, sure, but like, well, no, let's not take America or like other countries where maybe the gun laws are easier. Like, I'm not sure about the world, right? But gun market is heavily regulated,
Yes.
right? Because it's like the same. You can't blame yourself if you shoot yourself in the foot when you have a gun, right? You can't blame the gun. You're the one who shot yourself in the foot, right?
Hmm.
But the problem becomes when everybody has an access to the guns, and the uh, probability, or like the percentage of people misusing the tool is greater than the percentage of the people correctly using the tool. And that's where regulation comes in place to fix the
Um, I don't think it's, I wouldn't say percentage-wise, no, it's not. Most people use it correctly, or what it's supposed to do. But no, no, then again, a gun it's meant to shoot. I don't know how else you're going to use it correctly. But maybe you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, you'll shoot someone else in the foot. But that's the essence of the technology. And before, it's not even the issue that percentage-wise they misuse it more. No, they don't. But the effect of maybe even say if we do take America for example, when the gun laws are more open, that allows us to compare if it does actually lead to very harmful side effects. And there's what 400 plus million guns around in the US, and out of the 400 million, is the largest population being misused? They don't. Most people who own a gun don't misuse it. But the very few, that minority that do, that's when you hear about school shootings, that's when you hear about other gun crimes and any other weapons that are being used, misused. And they create an effect of this, they create a problem if you can shoot a certain number of people. Same with if you try to draw a parallel to AI. If you misuse a technology, if you misuse a weapon, it can devastate a certain batch. Can it devastate a large population? And if with AI, if you use it correctly, uh, is the marginal benefit of the correct usage greater than the marginal cost of people misusing it? Because because with weapons, yes, it is. So with weapons, there's less marginal benefit than there is marginal cost of misuse.
well,
Right, because when people use it correctly, how much benefit do you get from owning a gun than for you to not own a gun? And with AI, if it gives you more marginal benefit than the marginal cost of it, of misuse, that's the balance that's the trade-off that you need to get.
so we're getting into like more ethical part of the AI, but yeah, like even like if it's not percentage or the probability, but yeah, like uh, well, first of all, the gun market is regulated. We don't really know what is going to happen if the gun market was completely unregulated, right? Even in the US, it is regulated in different states differently, but like
Hmm.
the gun market is regulated in one way or another. Um, but again, when there is a school shooting from guns, right?
Hmm.
The deaths of the children and the people, or like whoever is involved, has a profound effect which outweighs kind of all those times when the guns are not used.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the marginal cost is greater in that case. Yeah.
If we talk about like AI or like computers and like programs, so I just checked how it's called. In 2010, there was this thing called Stuxnet. Have you heard about it?
Brings a bell, but yeah, if you explain, that'll be helpful.
It was a CIA cyber weapon, which was used to cause significant damage to the, well, nuclear program of Iran.
Yes, yes, uh-huh.
So like I guess it was used for like good purposes. Well, good in quotations. It was used for like national security of like certain countries, right? So, but what if uh, anybody, and like we are entering into, I think we've entered into this time like some time ago, a couple of years at least, where like any good group of like programmers in their basement can create like cyber weapons, which can ruin like I guess like national safeties or like break your private data from like again WhatsApp has a lot of leaks.
Mhm.
And now we're entering into the AIs where now anybody with a good enough GPU and a graphics card can train their AIs on any set of data within days. I mean, like depending on the amount of data, obviously, but
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
more GPU you have, the faster this will work, right? And that's where I guess, the main problem arises because misuse of AI can cripple economy, can break infrastructure. Uh, I don't want to talk about like even terrorism, but like it definitely can do that as well. Just
Mhm.
I don't know, hacking the airport systems, and then like suddenly like don't know who lands where, and then you have airplane crashes all over the place. So and like I'm not even sure it's possible to regulate it because like somebody just sits on their computer and like creates like whatever and like you have a thing, right? But like this is ethics. Like I was like even talking it just about misuse and how I think it may be damaging to the market, to like in my case the advertisement market, right? Um, I think it might be a problem for like another example I gave you. Like I'm not sure like what for do consultants exist anymore now with their
Uh-huh.
like, because so I've did my fair bit of like case interviews, like for interviews themselves and for trainings with other people who are doing their rounds to like the big three and the big four. And the case interviews ultimately boil down to a set of frameworks, right? So like the most popular marketing framework is the Porter's five forces. They're merger and acquisition. They're like a bunch of them, right? Costs and losses. Like there's different types of frameworks which are on different like scales used to solve business problems. But and like a lot of the decisions which consultants uh, take are based on the case library which McKinsey and Boston and Baines give them from their previous experience, from their like 100 or something year history of the company. What's stopping you just train an AI on this set of data and just hand it out as like ready-made solutions to companies? Like,
Uh,
well, not, but the industry should exist, so consultants will exist, and they will find a way to make their services worth the money. But the point is, there is no point to them. There is no point to the majority of them.
uh, very much possibly, but the thing is, the nature of consulting will probably be next. How can AI help your business? And a consultant will come into your company and start leveraging the technologies to use AI to help your business. But I think before even when Google came out, you can say, well, you can find your answers in Google or something like this, and you don't need a consultant to come in and tell you. Perhaps you don't. However, after that, you still have many, many consultants coming in. So I do think it will continue. Uh, on the quality of work that they have, yes, well, I think the approach is a bit flawed when you use cases, and that's it. Because essentially you're training a human in the same way that an AI model is trained to adapt.
But that's what.
And it is what they do, and I think that approach is flawed, as opposed to AI being a threat to it, because an AI can do calculations and learns from stuff a lot quicker than a human can. But so learning just off data, we're not. It's like an AI can remember a lot more than a human can. Yeah, you can use storage spaces which can store petabytes of data, and a human can never remember that much. Even a group of humans cannot. So uh, and compute power is also being taken away. And the next step, how quick are we to learn? And learning is also some things are learning. The speed of it is quicker with machines. So then we should go to the next level, because or learn in a different way that a machine cannot. And yes, maybe you can use the likes of ChatGPT to solve some of your consulting queries. However, my personal view is that a consulting position is a lot more on service, and it's the actual points that a team or some person comes into to your business and serves it with their attention, with their efforts, as opposed to just finding an answer to a solution. So it's a lot of a people's game, basically. It's a people industry, and it's not so much of a knowledge industry, and it's not solely based on results. A lot of it is based on service and how people interact with each other. Because if all your interactions on a daily basis was with Google's, with AI models, you'll be pretty lonely, and you'll be very bored, and you'll probably pay quite a high price to speak to people and to have the opportunity for people to do something for you, because we as humans still have a large amount of emotion and emotional based decisions, and you want to live your life. It's not solely based on what you can achieve on a numerical model.
So uh, like I'm not sure like a lot of people are listening at the moment because we're just starting out. So I can say whatever I want and hopefully not get any hate comments. But I was talking to my friend who is working in McKinsey, and I wasn't talking about like anything particular. Like we were just like going on a vacation for 2 days, and we're just like talking over this time. And their workflow was literally like go on Zoom meetings, uh, look at the cases, come up with conclusions from those cases on their specific like part of the project. Email those conclusions to an Indian guy in India, and then make him do the presentation, and then go on the Zoom meeting and present this to the actual client. Where in this step do you actually need a human?
Well, so again, I see. So they do a lot of outsourcing. Yeah, many companies do multiple levels of outsourcing just to get the actual work completed for a cheaper level. I was reading, well, if we're going to name companies again, hopefully it won't be detrimental for it. But I was reading the Deloitte contracts on what they take, and basically, they get in some data from one service from one place and reselling it. It's a basic transaction, and they don't take any ownership or any responsibility over the stuff that they're distributing. And yes, potentially, maybe as I say, it's like with the AI, and how you use it is a people's problem, not the tools problem. This is an approach problem from how the current industry operates. And with adding additional tools to it wouldn't hinder it. It'll maybe take some of the flawed approaches and put them out. Because yes, maybe you don't need it, that you don't, for some things, yes, you don't need a human approach, but you would just like one sometimes, right? Or some would. It's like for some things you would, for some things you wouldn't.
For which one? For like a service industry, but like for
Yes, absolutely.
obviously like look, if we're talking about like if we're talking about like consulting right now, then if I can have just like a McKinsey chatbot in my phone, which I just upload my annual like earnings and like and I prompt it like we're planning on expanding and creating a new factory. Say I have like a shoe manufacturing company, and like by like uh, say like analyze markets in different countries, analyze the logistics costs of, for example, like shipping from Vietnam and shipping from China and shipping from Laos, right? Analyze like what we're doing, like so like and in theory AIs can all do that, and like I'd rather do that as a CEO of like my big shoe manufacturing company and like have the report ready to work with my team who are people and like within weeks rather than hire like McKinsey, right? I'm not gonna ask for AI in like a tourist industry, right? Like to like entertain me like when I'm in hotel. I don't need an AI to do that, but like even then you can like find ways to apply it. But what I'm saying is you are gonna get people who adapt fast become, I feel, become like operators of the AIs and like double checkers of like what the AI has done. But then the majority of people will not adapt fast and they will just become, well, effectively irrelevant.
I think whenever technology advances, that's what happens. Even the basic economic output equation, where it's capital and labor, and there's a technological factor. And as soon as the technological factor increases, uh, you know, which doesn't, the labor factor doesn't need to be as high to get the same output. So unless you increase output and there isn't a quality of labor in that basic equation, it's basic. But the point is, whenever any technology improves, it's going to, cut off the staggering percentage of either of workers or of other technologies, of businesses, of societies that are not with the flow. They will be left behind. Think about it as if a lot of animals are having a race, and if there is no finish line, and the faster animals will be constantly getting further and further away than the slower animals. Right, so you have a hare and a tortoise, and if they continue running past the finish line, hare's going to get more and more and more of a leader because it's learning quicker. It's moving quicker in the skin development. It's learning quicker, and that's why we're going to get such a disparity. And yes, we will. But then again, this is not because of AI. This is because of it's just a natural tendency um, to be more unequal. And this is what happens. This is what happens on a human level, or happens on a corporate level, and on a governmental level, or just the general economic outlook. If you look at the world, you have some top 0.0001% of technological advancements where you can scan faces, get all the information, send things cross border, have automatically generated content calculations and anything to help you. And then you have the other end of the spectrum, which probably hasn't moved for decades for sure. Because they're living, maybe sometimes hundreds of years behind. And if you look at such very advanced technology, even in identity, where you can all this biometric and having all these data, identifying people, minimizing fraud, etc. But there's an invisible billion, and that's 1/8 of the global population who don't even have a passport, so they don't have documents. They don't have even a registered identity as such. But there are people. This is, I think, World Bank figures and with the United Nations studies that they were doing for a couple of years ago, and it's called the invisible billion. And yes, of course, and we only talk about the most advanced, or the top 0.001% as such. So yes, the disparity is going to grow, and it's going to split at each stage, and it gets the more higher up it gets, the more split it will be. For example, even if you look at Forbes list, like the top people have 200 plus billion net worth. But then you go to like 10th place, maybe it'll be around just under 100 million, 100 billion, maybe around 60, 70, 80 mark. Depends on, I haven't got the data with me here. But the point is that is a huge difference. That is a huge difference. And maybe between the space between first, second, third place will be tens of billions in dollar equivalents. And when you look at the bottom, billion, 2 billion, 3, 4 billion people, the difference in their net worth is going to be, pennies. That is very, very small because they're pretty much on the same level. But then as higher, as more it gets, the more disparity there is. And the same with technological advances, the same with skills, and they change a lot more. So whenever there's like an economic crash, there's more change in people with a higher net worth and with a lower net worth, in percentage wise, right? They're still probably a lot richer than the others. And same with this, if there's a technological change, it will only affect really the more technological advanced sectors as opposed to the less. And all it can do, the others are just going to play catch up. So, that's my way of putting it. And that's, I think, disparity and inequality is sort of natural tendency to do so. And it's like the natural law of competition.
Do you use AI?
Yes.
What for?
Well, I use AI. Well, I've tried it. Well, I say, do I use AI on a day-to-day basis? So, for example, I use natural language processing, which is an element here of AI. I recently made audiobooks using cognitive technology, which is an AI-based model. Right. So, and if I explain this on a case basis on how I use this, it's tailored to make audiobooks. It takes, sometimes days, but hours to record, and it's really hard to do. You need some very good technology, isolation, and plus you make a lot of human mistakes if you just do it yourself. So it's a lot of physical effort to do as well, and hence the cost of making one audiobook is very high. But with a language model, I can get, depending on the size of the title, $2 to $3 per day created. It takes some manual effort in terms of making it suitable for the model, in terms of making the quality of the recording how it needs to be. So you add in a bits of emotion, you split in some bits of text up, you make it the most user-friendly as possible. But it greatly does a lot of the heavy lifting. So you don't need to record a single word. You do other work, right? But you don't need to record a single word. And in that case, it gives you the type of work changes. It gets more productivity, and that's how, for example, I've lately used AI I wasn't personally, I'm not a fan of it for video editing, but I have tried. I have tried to make some clips of it. I've used it sometimes for ideas. I can't say that I rely on it. I don't rely on it, but I can, uh, it's like doing a Google search. You can search for ideas. You can search at other people. Look around. It's like going around on the street. You're looking for a logo. You walk around on the street looking at people's logos, and sort of inspires you to. It promotes creativity, and then you figure out a logo for yourself. For example. So this is where I personally use it. I mean, some other things data-wise we use it for as well. But this is really to do the heavy lifting.
Would you listen to an AI audiobook or the same audiobook if you can choose, recorded by a real world person?
Yes, I would. And in fact, I do. So the technology, because what we've released a couple of weeks ago, the web app that we're testing, it does give you some titles and we listen. I personally use it. I've been using it for the past week of listening to audiobooks, and I'll be honest, it's not perfect. So it isn't perfect, but then again, neither are human narrated books. And it's definitely getting there, and it depends because I created it. I made some mistakes. Most of it actually were not perfect because it's a human error, as opposed to an AI error, right? So which I'll take the responsibility for. But yes, I do listen to cognitively generated audiobooks, and they're pretty good. So I mean, everyone has their own opinions. People can try. You can try, and you can see for yourself. Is it good? Is it not? Um, but yeah, I do.
I'm just like thinking like a lot of like books are like recorded by actors or like voice actors,
Hmm.
not just people who read books. And like um, well, I guess we do have AIs already which can replicate real people and how they speak, right? But uh, if I'm listening to the book of the person I actually like hearing speak, say like everybody likes the work of Morgan Freeman, for example. I don't really listen to that many audiobooks in English, so like it's hard to uh, compare, I guess. Then like obviously I would rather listen to Morgan Freeman than an audio generated work. And to be honest, like I had like a few ideas of playing with AI for audio recordings for videos for video material. And like I'm always put off against it because the voice just doesn't sound. There's nothing. There doesn't seem to be like the sincere part which makes the video really alive.
Hmm.
So there was this. This may be like a political and a bad example, but there was a leak of a political conversation between like one show business person and another like oligarch in Russia recently, and it wasn't a very flattering discussion.
Hmm.
Uh, but the point is, one of those people who was in the discussion later came out and said, "Well, no, this was all like made up by AI and neural nets." But the people who are into audio analysis and audio production, they said, well, this is like impossible to, well, it's not impossible, but it's either impossible or like it's so expensive that it doesn't make any sense to do it through like neural nets and audio, is because there's so much more nuance in the sound, in the human sound, which isn't isolated and like stops and not stops, and which also transmit certain parts of the character, the way somebody speaks, which an AI just wouldn't have been able to replicate for this discussion. So that's where well, I guess the discussion ended when they said like this can be AI generated, this is real. So those people are in trouble now. But the point, my point being here, the larger point is that I feel like the real discussions, the real narration, and to extrapolate it, any real work done will have and does have at the moment a bit more value than a simply AI generated one. And if I had a choice between two almost exact things, of one being AI and another being human made, if I knew the difference, I would probably choose the one which is done manually, or where the AI is not the end product, but rather the like what I'm trying to say is like with the audio recording generated by an AI the end product is I'm basically listening to the AI. But if the AI is used in a way which I don't notice it, but and the end product is like something else, then I would probably choose this second type of product.
Uh, oh, you can try, give some books a listen and see if you can notice whether it's AI. Well, now you know, but maybe play them side by side and see how much there will be some difference, but it's not because it's computer generated. Personally, I forget that I don't really think about it. I don't pick these things up. The mistakes I say when it's not perfect is, sometimes I just didn't break the text up correctly. But the it's like the thing where, when it's a Rolls Royce or a machine manufactured car. So whether it's handmade, some bits are handcrafted, they give a bit more value. But they are all slightly different. They never say that every Rolls Royce is slightly different because they're
Give you a
handmade.
better example. Better example. What? Not Rolls Royce. Everybody knows Rolls Royce are like man-made, no, like
Mhm.
manually made, I guess. What's the difference between like Dolce Gabbana bag by Dolce Gabbana, and what is the difference between Dolce Gabbana bag made like second market, like like somewhere in Turkey or China, which is like fake
Uh-huh.
Gabbana. In There were a lot of like examples where people like give people fake ones and say those are the real ones, and they can't really spot the difference, and they will be
Yeah.
tricked by their brain to say that the real one is actually the fake one.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Yes. That's, I mean, with the designer brand of clothes and accessories, whatever they make, uh, it's they can be very, very similar. And to be honest, they are most likely made out of the same material. They can be made out of the same material. There was a woman in China who was showing how fake products are made and how the real ones are made, and the manufacturers of the material were the same. They were buying the same from the same suppliers. They were getting the same material. Everything was the same, but one factory had a license from a brand and the other didn't. But when the final product came out, yes, it was essentially the same. But one cost 10 times more, the other less. And but before, for example, if you go maybe 20 years ago, when there were fakes, they were not they were quite different, and you could spot the difference. But when they're made, pretty much exactly the same, if you do not know, you can't really tell the difference. And maybe it sort of diminishes the area where, so what's the value of that license then? If the majority of people were to say actually they're the same and start using the fakes or the so-called fakes, then the license or the being real isn't it's just going to diminish, like a market for lemons, right? You sell lemons, the overall price would decrease. So when things are, first of all, I like when things are honest. If something is, you say it's impersonation is always a bad tactic and it's short-lived. But when things are, essentially, if you were to buy some piece of clothing that says it's from, well, not Dolce Gabbana itself, but some other brand, right? And or not a brand, just a quality piece of clothing, and one is Dolce Gabbana with all the branding, there may be no difference. There may be no difference as such. So they excuse the barking there. It's animals are a bit hectic, but so there may be no essential difference to the product. So and I personally, if I was to say, say a shirt from average brand or some new brand that I don't really know of, that's less invested in marketing, that's not so PR, and Dolce Gabbana. But if the quality of the product is, I like the quality of the product of a brand, there is no real reason why me personally I would go for Dolce Gabbana. But that's everyone's also personal preference. I don't think they actually judge the product by the quality, but they judge by their perception to the brand, and they want to look and feel from the outside like they're, some sort of level. Like a lot of people who buy this type of clothing and cars and stuff. Like you buy a Lamborghini for other people as opposed to for how other people look at you and for your own, ego type, because you never drive a Lamborghini how it's, or a Ferrari around the track, or you don't never test it for the products.
What your product, like you buy stuff based on like what does it say about you? What does me owning a Lamborghini say about me? So that's why I buy something, basically.
Possibly this. Well, you buy things for different reasons. But if you were to buy it,
Product, right? Yeah, but like I mean, um, if you like buy, well, the moment you get the choice, like if you don't have a choice, you're gonna buy, for example, like even normal food, like a yogurt in like a normal shop,
Mhm,
right? Like Tesco or Sainsbury, right?
mhm,
But the moment you get the choice, you go to the wholesale Whole Foods Whole Foods shop and you buy like some better quality stuff, which is more expensive,
mhm,
because you want the product you buy to actually say more about yourself. Very few people, given the choice, choose to continue going to the same place to buy those foods. That's again psychologically. The choice.
yes, possibly if the quality of the product is better. Yes.
Yeah, no, but like when you again, like if you have the quality of like the material, all right, is like the same all over the board because actually, like I have an example with fragrances, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I worked with one company who produced their fragrances on the same factory where like a lot of popular other brands produced their fragrances as well, but they were cheaper just because they weren't this brand.
Uh-huh.
But the quality, or at least like chemically, of the thing was the same. But
Uh-huh.
why do people again buy like Dolce? Why do people pay more for Dolce Gabbana? Because the brand is so powerful that you buy it, so it says more things about you. So like the larger society, like you convey more information about yourself to others when you enter in a Tom Ford suit, you come in like a Rolls Royce. You have the best smell, which you could like afford. You have Omegas or Rolexes on yourself, or like even more expensive watches,
Mhm,
right? People get the sense of who you are faster, and most importantly, that's the sense which you want to convey that you're rich and successful and like right.
mhm,
Uh, yeah, I think it breaks down after you reach a certain level of success, like Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs. They don't wear like because their face is a brand, right? You don't need to know about their clothes, right? But their face, their personality, like tells the whole story they want to tell about themselves. They don't need this clothes, and that's part of their personality where they never seem to care about it. But for the majority of people who are somewhere in between of being a student and Mark Zuckerberg, uh, they need to tell their story. So that's why you choose brands. That's why you choose to align yourself with Nike or Adidas, or to drink Pepsi or Coke, right? So, but those are big brands. And big brand
mhm.
marketing is a bit different than like small uh, startup marketing.
It is. I mean, well, people that buy Rolexes, they don't buy it for the product. They buy it for the level that they want to be seen at, of course, because a Rolex is from a technological point of view, it's quite a useless watch because you constantly need to wind it up. And it's have an iPhone, it tells the time a lot better, or a Casio, it does tell the time better. It genuinely does. But it costs 1,000 times cheaper because of the modern iPhone. Maybe it doesn't, but 500 times cheaper. But it's for that look. I mean, This is a mentality point, I guess, most of it. So some people want to see more. Some people, for them, it's less important. It really depends on who you are and what you want to say. Um, and but if you're looking at purely product and what's better, what's not, then maybe it is. And if you look at AI as an audiobook, do you really? So there's many audiobooks out there. Do you know who each one is narrated by? So a lot of narrations done by people who are not known at all. And you can go to even Amazon Audibles or ACX where you can be paid for narration. When you go to Audible, then you don't know who narrated it. You have absolutely no idea, and it's not a brand thing when it's done by someone who you have no idea about, because there is no brand behind them, at least one that you know. So, plus an AI can have a brand. It depends on the model. Maybe like ChatGPT is a brand AI, right? And there could be many models that do similar things, but GPT now is ChatGPT is definitely a brand. That's why it's worth so much, and because when
So,
you say ChatGPT, people around know what it is,
so,
and this is where the value is.
so a book came out by your friend, basically.
By
Uh,
who?
the Prince Harry
Uh-huh.
audiobook came out. And here's the question. Would you, as a consumer, well, like imagine you're this consumer. Obviously, this might not be the book for you. It definitely isn't the book for me because like I didn't listen it or read it because I don't
Uh-huh.
care. But from the customer point of view, say you have an option of it being narrated by an AI voice, admittedly a good one, or you can have his autobiography being narrated by himself, which the audiobook is. Which one do you go for?
Uh, if I was to put, well, come on, it depends. First of all, how good is he as a narrator?
No,
And
no,
that
no,
may put you off. Maybe
that's his.
I see the exclusivity factor, right? Because if you say you want something from first-hand experience, and maybe it's like saying, would you buy an iPhone from Steve Jobs directly, if he was alive? And would you pay, as opposed to $1,000, 1,500, whatever, depends which model. Or would you pay, $50,000 for an iPhone directly from Steve Jobs if he were to come and sell it to you? And maybe you would. But is it practical, and is that the case? Well, not really. No, it isn't. Same as why Prince Harry wouldn't narrate his book, and he didn't. Well, I don't think he did anyway. Uh,
He
so
did.
some factors. Uh-huh.
He did narrate his book.
He did narrate. Maybe he did. But given I'm not maybe the audience for it, I don't even know who narrated it or what. It's not really my type of book, but uh, you know. It's more costly to do. It's like okay, making a Rolls Royce takes longer, but would you buy an iPhone from Steve Jobs from 50,000 as opposed to for 1,000 from an App Store agent?
No, sure.
Somebody would.
No, no, no. But I mean, you are the customer. You have the choice. Same price.
I wouldn't personally.
Oh, you listen to AI.
Oh, sorry. Okay, if it's the same price, I'll
Same,
probably be indifferent.
but one is narrated by the author, which is Prince Harry.
Uh, if it's everything's the same, okay, maybe there is a human element. Maybe I'll choose that. Yes, but practically, it's very hard for them to be the same.
But it's the same book. Obviously, no, no, no. The sound is
Yes.
and the way it's handled is gonna be
Yes.
different, right? Because like
Yes. Yes.
I will like compute it different, but you don't know it, right? All you know, you're like on like Amazon Audible or another system, and you have a choice: audiobook, spare, I think it's
Hmm.
called, narrated by like AI generated male voice, or Prince Harry. That's all you know as a customer.
Yes.
Price,
If it's the same, yes, maybe you would go for the authenticity.
but then the
Most
question,
likely, yes.
but then the question is, what happens when it's Prince Harry's voice, but AI generated?
First of all, it's like with your example with Dolce Gabbana or so
Yeah.
clothing. If you know the difference, and if you know that which is real and which is not, because you say here's two books narrated by Prince Harry, and you listen to the AI, and if it's his voice, done by the model, you would probably, if you were never told, you would never know if it's good, if it's done, how it should.
Does
So.
the product less?
Hmm?
Does it make the value of the product less?
Uh, it doesn't change the intrinsic value of the product, but it changes the extrinsic value of how you perceive the value of the project to be. Like with a designer, essentially the same shirt with a different brand label on it, you would perceive it to be different. And it, like Steve Jobs directly selling you, or I don't know, Jeff Bezos bringing your Amazon package, but you paid, I don't know, 100 times more for it. Somebody will, but based on the exclusivity, because it's technically very hard to do. But the point is, if Jeff Bezos were to bring it for you, it doesn't change the value of your package. If you buy, I don't know, an iPhone from Amazon, and Bezos was to bring it to your door, the value of your iPhone is exactly the same as if you were to order it online and have some courier bring it. So, but the perceived value from yourself is completely different. And why I'm sure some people would spend, 10, 50, 100 times more for
No,
that.
sure. Like, but again, it's like people, because this is like a real thing which is happening, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sure, like, I think we're far off from people saying, oh, you suck because you listen to AI generated audiobooks, and I've listened by the real person. I think this is uh, almost sci-fi to think, like, you're not even sci-fi. I think it's absurd to think we'll ever get to this point.
Mhm.
But here's like another example. So, Bruce Willis sold his likeness, his digital face, to
Mhm.
be in like advertisements,
Mhm.
right? To a number of companies. Uh, does it make the value of the advertisement, or like, does it make the value of Bruce Willis as a brand less?
Uh,
Economically,
if
yes, because
okay,
it's his supply. So yes, but like I mean,
yes.
even the perceived value of like we are entering this place where, and there are no laws against it yet. Where, and we've spoken about it quite a bit with Elon Musk actually.
Mhm.
You right now on social media, you can technically use anybody's likenesses in your promotional campaigns and use a bit of their brand, use a bit of Elon Musk's personal brand, for example,
Mhm.
and get, well, attention you wouldn't get otherwise. Does this dilute just his brand? And then does this dilute the fact that we can have actually people deep fake themselves onto anyone and anything and have actors just be like promoting all sorts of products? Oh,
Yeah.
actually, like, again, maybe like for the audience, like a bit of a geek example. Basically, there was this role-playing sci-fi game called Mass Effect. It's role-playing, so it's a shooter, but you can like walk around the world and like do different things. And there was this shopping mall which you can go to, and you can go to a different shop, and to get a discount, you well, you are kind of the celebrity of the world, and you can record your character saying, "This is my favorite shop in this shopping mall."
Mhm.
Then, when you walk around again the shopping mall later, you can hear every single shop saying that this is my favorite shop. And if right now in the real world we actually have this thing where actors can effectively be promoting anything, whoever buys the license to use their face and voice, does this dilute the brands themselves, the actor, the advertisement? When
Yes, absolutely. It
uh,
does. It does, because if everybody was wearing Dolce & Gabbana shirts, you probably wouldn't buy it. It's the same. It's an element of exclusivity. And if technically not possible, but if Jeff Bezos were to sell personally every single piece of every single Amazon product, was to deliver it, then no one would pay even a penny more to have it delivered more, to have it delivered personally to him. So because there's an element of scarcity and value, and if everybody has it, or if there's a lot, it's very, very popular. Or if Bruce Willis, if you were to watch TV and every advertisement that you see will be with Bruce Willis's face, you will be sick of him, and you'll be thinking, that brand has no credibility. Everybody has no credibility because they're all using exactly the same thing, exactly the same thing, and it's there's no value in it whatsoever.
well, we
Uh,
are in a world where we are on the verge of having no exclusivity of anything.
Are we? Nobody took anything away from us that we had before that made exclusivity. And there is no, it's like Rolls-Royce continues. I don't know actually how much of their process is manual, how much is it's on the conveyor, but I take it they still import some parts. They, even though it takes 12 hours to build a Toyota, it's all automated and industrialized. They still decided to keep it manual, and it's the same with this. Some will decide to, and most will decide to use the newly automated functions, but some will decide to keep it manual, and there will be some exclusivity there. So anybody, well, not anybody, but a lot of brands who have the knowledge and the ability can make manually cars, planes, whatever. But you know, many would still choose not to. And same with this. There's going to be some exclusivity unless we just stop using our brains and don't don't if we become lazy. And I mean most will become lazy, and they'll rely on things like the AI models to make their videos, to make the pictures, to do this, to do that, and to build their startups in a month. If but there'll be no value in them startups. Because the AI may as well pitch it to people, sell it to people, and then the AI should reap the profits of it. Why would a person, when you're putting in the bank account information, you want the money to go to you, probably, right? But if the AI did all the work, you don't really deserve a penny of it. So unless you actually put the work in and you just use the AI as a tool, not as a replacement for something totally to do the whole work. So yes, it's really a choice still, and I think that's going to be the what we're going to come to when we say, is AI going to replace, or how is it going to affect, and is it going to be positive or negative? It's really the human choice of how do you use it, how do you perceive it, and you should be looking in the mirror for the answer, not in the AI itself.
Well, that's a good point, and I think it's a good point to end on and finish on. But because ultimately, time will tell.
Absolutely.
Time will tell. People won't change. People usage of technology won't change, and I don't think AI is the end all be all of anything. There will be something after AI.
Oh, of course, yes.
Just want to thank you again for coming to the first podcast we're doing. It's interesting where this journey is going to take place. I'm really looking forward to hearing more conversations with you, Adrian, with like other people which we're doing, and maybe to just finish it on, tell people where they can find you and how you can be like of use to them as well.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a great experience. Yes, I'm available on LinkedIn, and our company is available on www.icartstechnologies.com. Feel free to check the website out, see what we do, and add me on LinkedIn. Always open for dialogue.
Sure. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you much.